Warriors, you are in for a treat today, right here on Lynn's Warriors. Please make sure you are subscribed. You hit the little bell. You are all lined up. You check out our membership. You check out that because you get your videos first. And it's most important that you get information you are not getting anywhere else, and that would be on the Warriors. Today's guest is, in full disclosure, my better half, my delightful husband, a saint. Lionel. Please follow him on X at Lionel Media, and also twice a day, 7 days a week on YouTube at Lionel Nation. And that is at 8 a.m. ET every morning and also 7 p.m. every evening. And I have to say, he is relentless. He never lets up, and you are in for a good time.
Indeed.
Now, welcome, husband,
Thank you.
to the Warriors. I want to start out with before we get to some headlines, I want you to break down legally, because you are a legal and media analyst. That is what you do. Is that the Warriors are part of now an elite group that was announced yesterday in Axios and also in Washington, D.C., where we are partnered with different tech companies, and we are going to be pushing very hard in Congress. And it's very exciting with the new administration moving in to really have safety around AI. And it's very much groundbreaking. And,
Good luck.
I want to ask you your opinion on that. What do you think?
I don't know where to start with that. I don't know where to start. It's not so much the safety I have with AI, but let's assume I use AI to concoct a story. And we've seen a lot of these deepfakes that have been going around lately. But let's say I just put something out there that is either defamatory. If it were real, I think we've talked about this hideously enough, something involving, let's say, small children, animals, vivisection, something which would be normally against the law. The issue is not AI. The issue is, what do we do with it once we create this? If it's not real, if something is not real, that's the start off point. So it's dangerous to find out or to think, where do we go from there? What kind of safeguards?
So what this is going to entail, and it's involved, and I'm going to lay it out a little bit more, perhaps in the body of the video, but this is all brand new. It's only 37 groups, including the Warriors, mostly tech companies that people probably have never heard of. But the onus is on whatever that AI creator is, that platform. And it goes hand in hand with the Take It Down Act, which we are also part of, the Warriors, a bipartisan piece of legislation that was just passed less than 48 hours ago in D.C. that says the platform, if somebody reports right away on X or Facebook or Instagram, whatever the platform is, that's not me. There can be no discussion, because we've heard these stories for years that people report they can't get images taken down. They get ignored when they reach out to the helplines and things like that. But if the platform does not take this down immediately, and the onus again is on them, and then investigation ensues, right? They can be held accountable and fined and different things like that. Now, what do you think of the Take It Down Act?
Well, give me a hypothetical. When would it?
Say there's a 14-year-old girl, and all of a sudden she sees her face online, or somebody brings it to her attention, and it's not her body, and it's some sort of CSAM, child sexual abuse material, and she says, "Hey, mom, that's not me." Then right away there will be a place for you to contact, right, where the resource will take over for you to contact that platform. Let's just say it's Facebook as an example. And if they do not take that down in a timely fashion, which is within a 24-hour period, they're going to be fined, held accountable. I'm not sure. It sounds good. We've been working on it for a couple of years.
Let me start off with this. First of all, it sounds great. I think it sounds terrific.
Right.
Do you know the woman who is she imitates Kamala Harris, Patty or whatever her name is.
I know who it is. I don't remember her name offhand.
Okay, right. Okay. What if Kamala Harris says, "That's not me"? And then she says, "Well, of course that's not you. It's me. I'm doing an imitation of you. I'm an impersonator. I'm Rich Little. I'm whatever." Okay. That's okay, obviously, because that's not her. But what if you really looked like her? I mean, really
Yeah, but
looked
you have to
like
keep in
her.
mind, this is all about sexual exploitation.
No, 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 no. I'm saying,
Not, so
let's
maybe
just,
it's not that is what I'm trying to say. It's not, I
right.
don't believe it's applying to like impersonations that are
Well,
just,
what is a deep fake? And listen, I'm not, I'm trying to identify the problems people are going to have ultimately. What is the deep fake? It's an impersonation. It's somebody impersonating somebody else very, very skillfully, very, very artfully through AI. I think we're going to get into eventually something that's going to be similar to defamation or libel, because what you're doing is you're making something seem to be true that is not. That's what libel is. It's the statement of a false fact that causes you harm, discomfort, or what have you. It's going to be very interesting to find out. Well,
Mhm.
let me start off with something. Let's assume I were to draw from the most absurd. I draw this crude stick figure, and I put Lynn's Warriors, and I draw you, and you got an arrow in your head, and it looks like a child wrote it. Uh, I don't think you could say take that down, because you would say, "Well, that's ridiculous. This is not you, obviously." Okay, now
Mhm.
let's take that, and it gets increasingly more good. It's really good. It's almost indistinguishable. We've been seeing some quote deep fakes of some AI of Trump and Biden speaking. It's better than I mean,
Yeah.
it's uncanny. They maybe do you want to have a label that says this is not the person? Is that it? Or it's almost like maybe there's a way of you being able to I don't know.
Well,
The
haven't you
problem,
seen that? Oh, go, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, 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 you go ahead.
I was going to say, it just popped into my head. I think on Instagram, I see it has to be labeled when you put a picture up. Is this AI or something? I think there's something when you're posting
Yeah.
that, but here's the thing.
I don't think some 14-year-old mischief maker who is going to superimpose let's say the targeted girl on the body of somebody else. I don't think they're going to be worried about making that label. This is remember what I'm telling you. I've always said Lionel's rule. The law it's always lags behind technology.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me go back. Do you remember when, oh God, not when people started to copy music?
Mhm.
The first thing was not MySpace. There was a name for Netspace. Anyway, there was this thing where people would just put up an album, and then immediately there were 5 million people copying the album. We never saw this before. Never had it happen. You remember it was the
I remember,
Netspace,
but I
net
can't think.
whatever it was. Okay,
No,
now
it was
the laws at the old days said I can loan you my album. You can record it on a cassette. Remember that? And then if somebody else wants, he can take the album and burn it, whatever, or record it to a cassette. And everybody was happy because it was a very slow process. It was a laborious process. The technology wasn't that good. The reproduction wasn't that good. It was like bootleg stuff. Nobody cares. Well, enter whatever it was, not NetSpace, but all of a sudden, we've got the ability to copy digitally like that. And they say, wait a minute, how the technology just changed the
Mhm.
rules. We had fair use. You could have had in the old days a book. You could take a book and actually, if you wanted to, copy each page like Ulysses because of stuff. Then came this mass production. So we're gonna have to figure out how this thing is dealt with. If, however, the following comes into play, let's say we catch this 14-year-old boy who does this. Let's assume it's a child or an adult for that matter. What do we do? Not so much with taking down the particular piece from the internet. What do we do with the person who
Yeah.
maliciously?
There's no plan in place for that. There's.
I'm saying we're going to look at defamation.
Mhm.
I'm defaming you. I'm saying, in essence, this is you. However, uh, in the old days, libel was I'm making a statement of fact. Am I making a statement of fact when I put up a really good AI piece? Am I saying this is you? And then you have to come forward to disprove it? We're going to have to create new causes of action, new civil laws, new harms. By the way, this discussion, or I hate to use that word, this conversation should be of no problem whatsoever because technology requires it. Let me give you another one. When we know we've had people before, friends of ours, who said, I got that 1, 2, 3 in me, or whatever it was. And hey, I swabbed my cheek, and guess what? I've got Scandinavian in my, that's great. And okay, sometimes people would allow that particular genome or that genetic information to be uploaded to the internet and then cut to the chase. One day, imagine there was a woman who 25, 30 years ago gave up her child for adoption because she didn't want to have an abortion. She was told, don't have an abortion. You will always remain secret. You will always remain quiet. You will always remain, you'll never have to address or meet your child. But thank you very much. And she wipes her, she puts it behind her. Somebody does this genetic genealogy. And you know, there are people who say, you've got somebody in your neighborhood who could be your mother. Now, it's not going to identify this person, but let's say this woman herself did a 1, 2, 3 and me, or whatever hell it's called. And then later on, there's a knock at the door and they say, are you my mother? Oh my God. Now, is this, should we, stop this process? No, we have to discuss, well, what do we do? Where have we ever thought about that? Is there any anonymity to this? Let me go a step further. We're going to find out one day that through genome sequencing and investigation, we're going to find out that some people are prone to perhaps being gay, trans, having manic depression, being diabetic, maybe having some kind of a genetic, by virtue of this information contained on their genetic material, which you have just uploaded. Nobody at the time they did it thought about this. What happens if later on we find out that your family line has this genetic predisposition for suicide and self-harm? Wait a minute. What do? We have a conversation. We talk about it. We don't throw the whole thing away. But this is just the beginning. We're not even close to figuring out what's going to happen next. The rules of libel, copyright. It's going to blow your mind. And AI, more than that. Wait till we get into bots. Wait till we have an AI or an AGI, artificial general intelligence bot, that one day becomes friends with the child. And this coffee stained mug, let's say, is an embodiment of this bot. And this bot learns little Madison and what Madison's afraid of and Madison's fears. And because AGI is subject to perhaps self-learning and self-consciousness and self-awareness, what if this AGI version is mischievous? And one day tells Madison, you know, your parents don't love you. If they loved you, they wouldn't be treating your sister, but hey, you're right. And let's assume this thing gets mischievous, or mischievous as people mispronounce. Well, what do you do then? It's already too late. AGI, wait till that goes out. What happens when AGI, some AGI program, does its own deepfake sex programs on its own? Nobody does it. It just likes to do this. Think of AGI as being an 800-pound gorilla with a 400 IQ, this genius behemoth. This is what you're talking about is so minuscule compared to what I see later on. Oh my God. Wars started, programs shut down,
All right. Well,
actual copy of data. Anyway, so thank God we're talking about it, but
well,
brace for impact.
I think we have to discuss it. It's already here. I don't think
Yes.
people realize that it hasn't been fully unleashed. I think the goal right now, because it's a runaway train, is to get some sort of guardrails again on the people, the big tech platforms, the ones creating it, not the 14-year-old boy, because there's no way to really do all of that. And I know this because the tech people we work with will tell me this. So they're trying to get it. I don't know how that's done. I
Well,
do
what about
know
this though?
we
What
have
if
to
you,
talk about it. Like we
right?
have to
What if,
have discussions about
right?
this.
But what if there's what if this becomes so ubiquitous that kids say, ah, pff, we've all had that. There's 30 of these, and then they become boring. Then you've got a picture of
Well,
this person, but let's just assume it becomes so talked about and discussed, which is great, conversated, as it were, and then all of a sudden, it doesn't mean anything because we've talked about it so much, we've explored it. So I don't know. These are all fascinating questions, which I hope we
well,
get to the bottom of.
yeah, but I think the most frightening thing is this CSAM, child sexual abuse material, because that is what we know a lot of this will be used for. And that I don't know how anybody
But
does anything with that. I
again,
don't
not to
know.
not to be bad here, but what is it? It's not real. It's not. There's no child. It's just a picture. And I've been saying this. Look, it's stupid for me to say this. You know me. I've been talking about this for so long
Mhm.
that people have been just gotten sick. It's like, is he talking about this again? Because I have been looking at this since the beginning of time, saying, what if you have the most horrific stuff? If real, it would boggle the mind. And what if later on I decide, guess what? The actual instances of these things taking place have diminished greatly because a lot of the people who normally would be a part of this now realize I don't have to go after children. I can just make this up my own. The stuff I'm buying online is better than anything I could get if I can suspend the reality that this is not a real child. What if we've talked about this before. There are brothels in Japan that have robots in effect. And one day these robots are going to be so real and bot-like with their own personalities.
Yeah.
I predict one day the Catholic Church and religious entities will consider these things have a soul, these AGI robots. That's not far-fetched. How's that?
Mm. Not far-fetched, but my mind cannot go there yet. Now, are you okay there? I see a little sun. Is the sun pouring in
This
on you
is
yet?
this is the brilliance of this conversation that is washing over me. I love
Okay.
it.
I have a couple of, we're here in New York City, and
Really?
I want to ask you something. Well, people watching could be,
I know.
around the
I'm kidding.
world. They may
I'm being a
not be
smart
aware.
ass. I'm sorry.
We have a lot of headlines that are very disturbing, and I always point out to our parents and grandparents and caregivers, family members, it's about the kids. So right now we have two big headlines here in New York. We have the trial of Daniel Penny,
Mhm.
Marine, who seems to, in my opinion, he was on the F train and there was a menacing man on there everybody was afraid of, and he
Mhm.
went into automatic action. So we're waiting right now for the outcome of this trial. The last we heard, but it's not official yet, kind of a hung jury, but we don't know yet exactly what's going on.
Mhm.
So we have the kids. What I'm trying to get at is we have kids because they are on these devices and they hear things, even though people always think kids do not hear things. They take
Yes.
everything in like a sponge, right? And they
Mhm.
worry. They're little worriers and big worriers, the teenage kids. But we've got the Daniel Penny trial going on, and we also have the Brian Thompson, who left the Hilton Hotel the other day, 2 days ago, and was gunned down on the sidewalk. Now, I want to talk to everybody about how you talk to your kids about this. I think it's worth bringing up. I mean, like age appropriate, sort of. What are your thoughts on this? Because it's better if they hear things from friends or they see things online. They meet a lot of misinformation. How do you think that should be dealt with kids? These headlines, because again, the kids are in the mix of it. There's no more turning off the TV set if something bad comes on. What are your feelings on this?
Well, the first thing is depending upon the child. Let's take any, whether it's murder cases, whether it's sex, whether it's whatever it is. I think the question is for you to base your reaction of what the child is asking or what the kid is asking. For example, when somebody says, let me give you an example. I know this is not that, but this is a sex example. When somebody says, where did I come from? And now we've talked about this before. You can jump into a very thorough explanation, which is true, but it might not be anything that is what the child really wanted. The question you should always ask is, what do you want? What do you mean? What concerns you? What worries you? Why do you concern yourself about this? Don't read into it. There's a picture of Penny who has this maniac in not a chokehold, but in a kind of a carotid restraint. And the question that I have when people say is, well, what do you think about that? What do you think about that? How is that in any way considered okay? What is a child thinking? Is that man dead? Is that man hurt? Those are the questions you have to ask. So just let the child. I always want to give this example. You've heard this a million times, but very quickly. I had a friend of mine who's very liberal type, whose daughter one time years ago says, "Why are my teachers all colors?" And he thought he'd be the right thing, and he was explaining melanin and the sun and Africa and the equator, and the kid's looking at him like, "What the hell are you talking about?" So finally he says, "Why do you ask?" Which is the first question you should ask. She said, "Well, because all my teachers, Mrs. Brown, Mr. Green, Mr. White." So he read into it. So always gauge your answer with what the child is asking. All the time, I remember there was a young kid who said, "Does sex hurt?" Because there was something on TV and there was some moment of ecstasy, some ecstatic moment that looked to the unfamiliar child as some kind of pain. Didn't know ecstasy from pain. It was a very logical question. So, it depends. As far as what a child sees on TV, you have to explain to them kind of like, yes, that's what happened. It's almost like, when a child hits his head and you don't react, the child can say like, wow, that hurts. But if he sees you reacting and acting frightened, it associates pain with fright, with worry, with concern, and starts crying. So I don't really know. In two particular instances, the cases are fascinating. Daniel Penny, I believe, is going to be the hung jury. Is one of the greatest signs ever. I don't know what the could be 11-1, could be 10-2, who knows? But the fact that they could not decide, they could not get a unanimous, is terrific for him. I believe he's a hero. His only problem in that particular case, this is the Marine who applied the carotid restraint, is the length of time. Once the person became no more of a threat, or was rendered unconscious, or not responsive, should have maybe let go. I mean, the person was down, they were surrounding him. That may be it. He is being charged with one of two offenses. One, negligent homicide, or reckless homicide. Reckless is far more serious. Negligent is oops. Reckless is a disregard for the truth. I mean, for the safety of others. Reckless disregard. That's a higher version of it. But in any event, I think he's going to be basically ultimately acquitted, because it's not worth it. And by the way, this is the only case where 90% of all the jurors have experienced a subway where there's some lunatic. During the Alvin Bragg case, most people did not run for president, have NDA monies paid to hookers, and so they can't really relate to it. This one they can. This is a very different case. So I think that inures to his benefit. As to Mr. Thompson, this case is, the New York City Police Department looks like the Keystone Cops. Like, this is horrible.
Let me ask you why. I mean, we love our law enforcement, and, we work with them at the Warriors, but I don't really understand. I know I'm hearing things like they're withholding information, but this seems like, I don't know. This seems something's going on we don't know about, or something, because there's something very wrong with this whole case.
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go out on a limb and give you an opinion that has absolutely nothing to do with any reality, just my weird gut. This guy is going to end up being a version of Antifa or something like that. A self-appointed vigilante going after corporate health care. You saw with that Lawrence, that crazy.
We're talking about the shooter, everybody, not
right. Right, the shooter now. But the shooter, right, exactly. But the shooter is now being lauded in the world of social media as some kind of almost like a Robin Hood or something. Some
Like a Bernie Getz sort of,
yeah,
but
trying to avenge corporate
yeah,
malfeasance. And
something.
so this guy who
Yeah.
may have written on the actual bullet casing words similar to those found on a book which dealt with the callousness of the American healthcare industry, and judging by how many people are lauding him on social media, it may be somebody who takes it on their own to find this person somehow, and I'll bet you anything that he left a trail as to where he would be. And remember, he was here for 10 days in advance, this alleged, this perpetrator. So I just saw the face, I saw the youth, I saw the smile, the callousness, in view of also the social media, the resonance. And I'm thinking this, believe it or not, would be because there are so many people, as seen by Antifa. Remember during Antifa, during the George Floyd cases, they had people, this is the most important, people, lawyers who were thinking about throwing Molotov cocktails into police cars and incinerating police
Well,
officers.
they did. There were
Look,
some that
yeah.
did.
Well, tried to. I don't know if they actually did it, but they were. But maybe they did. But the point is, I've never seen this movement motivate and elevate so much insanity. So anyway, that's just completely
But what do you
a
say what do you say to the kids about this? Who maybe some teenage boy or girl is getting involved on one of the platforms where they are kind of applauding all of this, because that's what we have to think about these days with the kids having access 9 to 17 with 4 different devices, gaming and laptops
right.
and phones and all this. So they're going to see some of these things, and a lot of kids go on these platforms even though they're not supposed to.
Well,
There's no
right,
true age verification. So what about, there's that group think, and you've got a teenage
right.
boy who this is, getting him into it, or a
Well,
teenage girl. How do we talk to our kids about that?
I have a newsletter about that about this ochlocracy, this mob
Oh, you
mentality.
do? I didn't see that yet. I didn't see it.
Went out at 1 p.m. ET for
I
those who
didn't
are.
see it
So,
yet.
well, that's because you were busy. Anyway, so I think that you have to also remind kids. And by the way, I hope this guy, this fellow, doesn't mind spending the rest of his life in prison, or depending on the state, he could be looking at execution. I mean, nobody ever talks about that, but this guy may be doing life. This was cold. This was as cold-blooded as you can get, almost taking on the look of the hitman coming
Well, it
out of the
wasn't very
dark.
good. He dropped his burner phone. Who drops their phones?
He was very good because they haven't found him.
Okay, I understand
So
that,
I
but
mean,
he's
he
so
did a lot
bad
of.
he's good. This is the way I look at it. He's so
He should have
bad.
had a car. He has apparently no accomplice. He went into Central Park where he. So anyway, we will see about that. But what's embarrassing is the New York City police. My God, the world's greatest Kojak homicide, Crocker, NYPD. They're. What do you? Nobody saw this. Nobody knows who he is. Nobody in the world says that's Dave. He was going to wherever, or an ex-girlfriend, or somebody who doesn't like him, somebody who wants their reward. Nothing.
Well, they say they
No.
do. They're not giving out information, and I guess they're trying. I mean, I say he probably is out in New York. He's gone already from New York, or had an
Oh
accomplice that's
yes,
getting
yes.
out of New York. Somebody met him in Central Park and got him out of.
Listen, you don't have to be. You could be in Jersey. He doesn't have to go anywhere. He can just be in Jersey. He could be in Queens. Just walk around, get a haircut. Nobody's gonna know anything. The fact that he stayed at a hostel means he's not from around here, and the fact that he had a city bike, got an Uber, all of these things with burner phones and debit cards, and he left a trail everywhere. You know how they always say your digital imprint, your digital you're always followed everywhere. They can't catch this guy. He's giving cards.
And he went to a Starbucks down the street.
Starbucks. How
Come
are
on.
you? There he is. Nothing. I don't mean to laugh about it, but it just goes to
Yeah,
show
we
you.
can't laugh about it. We have to see how this unfolds. I'm just worried kids see so many of these headlines and, get swayed by things and copycats and who knows what
But
they're
but
thinking.
but it's the way you talk to a kid about this. It's
Yeah,
the
you're
way you
right.
sit there. It's like, did he murder? Does this happen? Very rarely. It happens sometimes. Oh, okay.
It
Is
is
this
very.
anything to be? Is this anything to be upset about, mom, dad? No. It's always been like that. It's very tragic. People get hurt. People get into accidents. Sometimes terrible. Very rarely. Okay. Well, you're not upset about it, mom and dad. No, I'm not. It's tragic, but don't worry about it. Okay, fine. Have a nice day. As opposed to going into it and getting scared and
Right.
you're
We always say do not over give information.
right. And
As you
ask
pointed
them
out, you,
ask them
yes.
what they fear. What do they?
Like
Could
what
it
are you
happen?
talking? What do you fear? What are you thinking? And then let them and then go from there. Now let me bring up a couple of other things. It's lionelmedia.com, everyone, for the website, linswarriors.org for our website. We have a wonderful December book of the month. It is called Beyond the Shadows, and it's by Zeth Giel, Gehle, and I interviewed him on the channel.
Mhm.
So please find that. He's a very brave survivor. He's a vet. He is talking about his abuse as a child. We don't have a lot of male voices
Mhm.
in this area that come forward for boys and for men
Right.
to empower them. So I think this is a very critical, a very crucial book, or at least read the website. Just understand that you're not alone. Share this kind of information, get some knowledge. So we have that going on. And I also want to thank you, my dear husband, for helping me so much. We have our toy giveaway #1 starting tomorrow at Living Waters Church in Brooklyn, New York, because you helped me with so many toy donations that were very generously sent to us, given to us from warriors around the country. And you put up with my shopping bags, my garbage bags, my boxes, stocking
I know what you're
floor to
doing.
ceiling.
I
I'm
know what
thanking
you're
you.
doing.
I'm thanking you for
I know.
helping me and transporting a lot of these things yesterday in 100-mile-an-hour winds off of the Hudson
Oh
River.
yes.
So, um,
Freezing.
I want to make sure everybody knows that you helped me. I could not do my
Remember
warriors work without you.
remember
Let me finish
remember
this
one of
because
I'm sorry.
no, I want everybody to know I could really not do my warriors work without your support, without your constant
Well,
help
that's
and
true.
encouragement. Well, because I'm a warrior, but when you break it down, it is very difficult. It is very desperate kind of, working with people or repeatedly about children and the abuse and the exploitation. And I don't ever really stop and think about it, or I can't move. You are very much empowering me and you equip me.
Remember this though.
And thank you.
You're welcome. You're looking at the staff. This is it. We don't have any. I love when you talk about producers and
No,
this is it.
we do everything alone. We have help from
This
our
is it.
Warriors Youth Council. We have our Warriors Youth Council leader Isaiah Vega. He's very good,
Oh, he's
helping.
wonderful. But
You know,
when we're talking about this right now, it's
yeah,
you and me. I
yeah.
mean, I'm doing this. We're basically one room apart. This is it. But the one day when we were on Far Rockaway giving out diapers and seeing people looking like this was a great diapers are expensive,
But
and and in
isn't that incredible? Like we're here
and
in
in
America,
Queens,
New York.
remember the little boy with the truck and the toy almost killed me.
Clutching the toy.
I
And
couldn't believe it.
how about the gloves? We had very
Yeah,
generous warriors send maybe 100 mittens and gloves, just little colorful, and they're so happy. Kids would say, "Can I take a pair?" You think free. I
right.
thought in the beginning people would be swooping it up and trying to steal it all, but they're very cautious. Most people, may
And they
I?
were very
They don't understand free. Like
right.
I'm like,
They
take
were
another one, take a,
yeah.
and it's that kind of. We gave away 100 jackets, ski jackets. One mother in particular sticks out from the Rockaways with two little girls. She was so thankful. I said, make sure you get the matching hats and gloves. We have them
Right.
over. And that was a freezing rain day. Do you remember that? But the
Oh
rain
yes.
stopped. I willed it away because
Yes.
we do
Yes.
these events outside. And I willed it. It was pouring rain in the morning. And you, like a trooper, drove us there. And Isaiah, our youth council leader, met us there with the truck. And I willed it away. I'm telling you that it would not rain for like 1 hour while we gave everything away. And it didn't. And we were so lucky. But Lionel finishes up on things we should be looking at in this area or parents should be thinking about. We're in the holiday season. We've just kind of kicked it off. I've pointed out before, I think people are very happy. I'm seeing so many Christmas trees. And a friend of mine the
Yes.
other night who lives across town, I was telling her I saw all these Christmas trees early, like the day after Thanksgiving being sold, which is early, right? In New York,
Mhm.
we have street corners or bodegas sell them outside. And she said, because she lives across town, she said, I saw the same thing. She said, the stand by me is almost empty. I said, empty? She said, yeah, it had all these trees right before the day before Thanksgiving. And I saw the day after Thanksgiving, everybody out buying trees. So,
Right.
in the holiday spirit, leave us with some uplifting, something you want us to think about, look at.
Well, this is, not to get political, but I see more
But
excitement
how can you not?
and
It's like,
more people evincing and indicating and just celebrating a feeling of happiness and hope for the first time. And people from
yeah.
all different people from demographics and groups that one would not necessarily think would get along with others seems to be a feeling of camaraderie and hope. And I'll leave it at that. That's what I'm hoping for.
Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to join the Warriors today.
Indeed.
You really are number one warrior. Again, everybody, you can see the information, YouTube at Lionel Nation, twice a day, 7 days a week. I don't know how he does
But
it.
nothing compared to what you do. You live, breathe from the moment you get up to the moment you are constantly.
Oh,
Every single thing you do.
well,
This is your garden club. This is your PTA club. This is everything that you do. There, you are so committed to it, and it's a God's honest truth,
I'm very
and you know that.
passionate about it because I can't believe, we're very fortunate this kind of abuse and exploitation takes place, is allowed to in America. But I have a feeling it's going to start getting
Better,
better. And I
indeed.
really do. I feel, and I just want to throw out there before we finish up a thank you to all of our volunteers who help us with the giveaways and send goods, donations. Thank you for those donations as well. It goes into our education program. We support survivors. We do art therapy. We're going to begin kickboxing in January. And I just am the luckiest woman in the world married to you, Lionel. So
As
thanks.
am I.
Thanks for joining us
Married
today.
to,
And we
indeed.
and we'll talk again later. Thanks.
Thank you.